Welcome to Tech Tuesday. My name is Abbie Richie. I'm the founder of Senior Savvy, and I'm here every Tuesday talking with people who are engaged in age tech as it relates to senior living. Today, I've got two excellent guests. And before I introduce them, I want to go ahead and run our intro. Welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. Before I introduce my guests, I just want to say, guys, it's been 1 year. Can you believe that? 1 year ago today is when I first started Tech Tuesday. And I got to tell you, I am so thankful, so grateful. And I've been so blessed this year to have the opportunity to speak and to meet with people who are passionate about impacting the lives of seniors in senior living communities. So thank you for all your participation and your input. I have been immensely grateful for this program. I want to go ahead and bring my guests onto the show. Today, I've got Katelyn Nowack and Marcus Perry. They're sitting there together. Let's go ahead and give them a bigger part of the screen if we can, because there's two of them there. There we go. Goody. Hi. Welcome to Tech Tuesday. Please, Katelyn and then Marcus, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Okay, thanks, Abbie, and congratulations on your 1 year. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Think of how much knowledge you've been able to share with everybody. That's awesome. So my name is Katelyn Nowack. I'm honored to be here today. I work with Lifespark Senior Living, in the Senior Living division, and I've been with the company on the Lifespark Purple Bus for the last year in a regional director of operations position, supporting 7 senior living communities across the Minnesota metropolitan area.
And my name is Marcus Perry. I work in sales and marketing across the state, from all the way from Cross Lake, Minnesota, all the way down to Marshall, Minnesota. So trying to stay warm while doing it and working with Katelyn.
Katelyn, I noticed you mentioned something called the Purple Bus. What is that? Did I hear that right?
Yes. So That is a loving expression that Lifesparkians, as I call us, like to say to talk about Lifespark. Lifespark is such an innovative company that it kind of takes a special type of person to want to be on the purple bus, so to speak. And we love being on the purple bus, kind of rebuilding the healthcare industry into something better.
Marcus, are you on the purple bus too?
I'm in the front seat.
Right on. Just want to make sure I know who I'm driving, who's on the bus right now. So guys, let's talk about considerations when you're selecting technology for your community, because that's what we talk a lot about. We talk about tech innovation. We talk about what's out there. And we also talk about, the various considerations and what you should keep in mind. Let's go ahead, and when you're thinking about technology for a new building, what comes to mind?
That's a great question. And it's definitely different for our new buildings versus our existing construction. We do have buildings. I mean, how far back is our skilled nursing buildings?
About 34 years.
So Obviously a little different when we're introducing new technology into those environments as opposed to brand new construction like the building we're in today in Round Lake. For technology, usually it's about our return on investments, the marketability, which is Marcus's key point, and then just the ease of use for our residents and our employees. Whereas for our existing construction buildings, it's really about how it integrates with the current technology in those areas, which can be really challenging when you have a call-out system that's maybe from the 80s and we're trying to utilize our Apple devices to be able to coordinate with those. So it's kind of just about finding the best streamlined system to meet both of those demands. And making sure that if there is transference to a new program or a new platform for our existing buildings, that it's something that is making the lives easier for our employees and our residents, as opposed to being too big of a hurdle or a jump to a new platform.
Yeah, what I've noticed, because I work with different senior living communities all over, but also here in Phoenix, is that many of them were built, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, and they may not have considered the infrastructure of the technology and the cabling and the communications that we absolutely need today, right? And so there's a lot of backtracking that needs to be done to lay the foundation so that the communication can occur. Has that also been the experience at some of your older communities?
Yeah, I think when implementing something like a Caavo system is just the consistency. We've all kind of worked in senior living. People listen to this podcast, and we've all had that situation where we've had to help somebody with their TV or different technology or different cell phones, tablets. There's just so many different things. So to have one streamlined product, it really helps kind of the staff, the families, everyone's kind of on that same page when you have that same thing.
Now, let's talk about Caavo. Now, I know what Caavo is, of course, because Caavo is a Foresight partner, but tell us, in case one of our viewers is watching, what is Caavo?
Yeah, so Caavo is a game changer, I call it, in the senior care space. It utilizes your cable box and a universal television remote to be able to kind of have communication, information, and everything at a resident's fingertips from their TV, which, as we all know, is the one piece of technology most seniors are most comfortable with. So to break down that barrier of having them get used to utilizing a tablet or getting used to utilizing a smartphone, which is a much smaller screen, it allows you to be able to utilize that to access messaging with your loved ones, to be able to have a telehealth conference meeting with your provider, to be able to check the menu for the day, to be able to see what the activities are for the day, even send reminders. Activity starts in 15 minutes and they're all personalized to you, which is really exciting. So that if you always go to art class and you want to make sure that you make it there and it's going to take you 30 minutes to get ready to get there, that it can set a reminder 30 minutes before art class starts to get you there, as well as an app platform for the providers as well as for your family members, so that they can get right into your TV as well. We from the front desk of a community can make sure that your TV is working properly, which is a huge maintenance request to ask, and it's all from one platform, which is amazing.
One thing I love about the use of the TV as well is that it's huge, right? And it's usually taking up the biggest amount of space on a wall, and it's almost always on. When I go in to meet with someone, they almost always have their TV on. And like you said, they feel confident using that remote and navigating around the TV.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's navigate back towards selecting technology if we can. So can you tell us, inside a community, how do you get consensus for selecting technology?
Yeah, and it's tough because where everyone's at is different, especially with our aging population today. We definitely have people that want it, like their children that are used to technology are looking at one system, whereas the senior themselves might be looking at something different. And then our younger generation, the primary workforce, is the most tech savvy of all of us, right? So it's really about making sure when we're implementing something new, we're talking about it early and often. We want to make Caavo a name within our building. We want people to feel comfortable learning about it. And we need to make sure that includes all of our key stakeholders, because it's not just about the resident utilizing it. It's not just about the healthcare workers utilizing it. It's about the family members, making sure that they embrace it and that they say, hey, Mom, I know we were going to talk later. Why don't we do it over Caavo? Let's do it on your TV instead of me just calling you, helping kind of be part of that. And our service line providers, Lifespark, we are very lucky to have a lot of different sectors. So we have like our hospice line, our population health. We have our own providers that round within our communities. So making sure that they're also on board and that our goal is for them to also be able to utilize it for psych visits and things like that from the TV as well, or to even bring in family to be able to be present for a care conference via their device, which is another key piece of information. It's PHI protected because it's information that's stored in our system. Mm-hmm. So as opposed to if you were doing something over FaceTime, let's say, where that information could be getting anywhere, most likely isn't, but you never know. This is stored on our system, and we are the people that have access to that information.
I love how you mentioned the family members, because I think that while we all know how important they are, it's such a valuable aspect of getting the consensus that you need here. Because when the family members need to know something and they need to get in contact with their loved one and they can't, or in the case of maybe a memory care issue, being able to communicate with them one-on-one is so valuable.
Well, the communication is one piece to it, but also family members can log in. They can turn on the Twins game. Again, from Minnesota.
Okay.
That's one of the things that families really like. Mom loves to watch the Twins, and just reminding them that, hey, the Twins are on. It's something they enjoy. And they can talk about the game after too. So I think there's other aspects. The voice remote is another very accessible thing for the seniors that they really love. That they can hit a button, say tune into a channel, say call your daughter. So it is a game changer.
Yeah, and the voice feature was the feature none of us with our Caavo team and us at Lifespark, was the feature we didn't think would be the most used, because it was the biggest change from the regular remote control. And it is on our activity reports since infancy of implementing this in the Lifespark communities, is the number one used feature is the voice to talk feature, which is pretty cool. And they're using it to text their families. We have grandkids that are away at school, and I was in a room with a resident, and she was using voice to talk on her TV and has her text message basically screen up with her grandchildren, and was like, good luck on finals, and sent a picture of her like cheering for them, and was like, they never have time to call me, but they have time to read a text.
I'm so happy.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear this, because I'm teaching your residents, right? And I'm always like, the kids, they don't know how to make calls. They don't know how to use the phone. So you have to connect with them the way that they're going to communicate back with you. And if that's using a text message, great, but take it a step further and use your voice to communicate, because as we age, we lose the dexterity, our eyesight diminishes. But if you could use your voice to communicate, go for it,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now let's flip this now, okay? Because we've been talking about the family, which is an awesome aspect here, a great aspect, a great benefit. Let's talk about how this benefits your staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we start with the daily check-in system.
Yeah.
One of the most important things is just getting eyes on our residents. It has an alert that comes up on the Caavo system right on their TV to say, how are you doing for the day? And they're in the process of working on, are you feeling great? Are you feeling baseline, or are you not feeling well? So then that will actually go out to the family. So if, your mom and dad isn't feeling good that day, it's going to prompt the family to pick up the phone and say, hey, what's going on? And obviously from our standpoint in the building is, well, someone's not feeling good, we should probably get up there and do a safety check and check on what's going on.
Yeah. And it also uses that information to, from a clinical perspective, if we have a resident who's on medications, for example, and we're managing that, and we're seeing that they're consistently, because you can pull a full report, which is crazy and just awesome to be able to say, okay, in the last 30 days, Edith has had 12 days where she was a frowny face. So let's look at her medications. Let's look at what her personalized life plan is. And are we meeting those what we call our 7 essential elements to her well-being? Are we making sure that she's getting her social support? Is she getting, and not just make it about one piece of her, but it's something that we can look at and say, okay, on the days that she was smiling, she went to these activities. On the days she was smiling, she had her life care manager visit her. On the days she was smiling, she had this happen. And how can we make that part of her overall life plan so that we can keep Edith happier, healthier, longer, by just utilizing the information that's available on our TV.
100%. I love to hear how when you take the data and you put it to use to help someone live a better life, because the data exists. It's what you're doing with the data and implementing that's making a big difference. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's how we can make it a return on investment too, because there's so much that it's wonderful. And I'm talking from the operations side, but it's wonderful to have systems that help with social isolation. It's wonderful to have systems that our residents can embrace. But if we don't have a sustainable way to pay for it, with operating margins as slim as they can be in senior care, we can only take that program so far. So to be able to find metrics that we can work towards and have return on investments in from a financial standpoint, that's a critical element for us to be able to utilize.
Yeah, I am so glad that you mentioned that. So, what other ways, and it doesn't have to be Caavo specific, but if there is, what are there other ways that technology is benefiting staff in your communities?
I think outside the daily check-in, we're talking about like the non-emergency things, somebody needing help with opening their window and they're not hitting their pendant to go up to the room, causing staff to be pulled from the floor. That's one of the huge things that we can see a reflection in, is that it comes directly to us. We can go up there and help whoever has time to kind of go, they needed a glass of water. It wasn't a fall, it wasn't anything like that. We can really take care of them then.
Yeah, with one of the main pieces that we're working on with Caavo, which I will just do one more shout out for them too, that they are so solution oriented, and they've brought something to market that didn't truly start as a senior care device, and it just kind of blew up in senior care because we were all like, we've been needing this.
Yes.
Yeah. But for utilizing that emergency pendant, a lot of our communities, and I think I can speak to a lot of senior living providers, is they have one pendant. And there's no way for a staff member to know if that resident's having an emergency and 15 minutes is critical, or if someone needs their blinds opened, or they want you to help them open their mail or read them the paper. So for them to be able to use their Caavo device for non-emergency items and really keeping that pendant as just specific to when they can't access their TV or they need an immediate assistance. I mean, that's not only from a life support measure important, in a quality measure perspective important, but that is what helps our families and our residents feel the safest, is the thought of having that system available.
It really is. We got a question just a little while ago about privacy. What about the privacy if there are more than one person in a room?
So we don't have that within our community. The only times that we have shared rooms as if it's like spouses or roommates, and if they are roommates, they do have their own separate rooms and bathrooms, and that would be the space that the Caavo device would be in. But we do have consent forms that the residents fill out that they're consenting to having the Caavo device in their room, as well as who they're choosing to allow application to it. So for families, a family member could turn on the TV for their mom if they had given consent for that specific piece, or turn on the camera. Sometimes if they can't get a hold of their loved one, they might panic and be like, let me check the room, make sure she's not on the ground. And they'll turn that TV on and just kind of see the room and be like, Mom, are you there? And for those types of circumstances, but all that's based on having consent forms completed and acknowledged.
Yeah, from what I've heard, if you need to send a message to the room, it will sound an alarm. I mean, like a notification, for instance. If someone needs to get in touch with you before the camera comes on. Is that right?
Correct.
Yep, it does. It depends on who, like it's a different alert based on if it's the facility that's trying to connect with you. In most cases, you have to do an actual acknowledge for that and go to your TV and say, yes, I accept this visit or this message. And then for families, that's really the only time that there might be someone that consent has been already pre-processed, that it can automatically start.
Now, I want to ask you about how else you choose tech. Do you have a pilot community that you will try it out first?
Yes. So for Caavo, we have Polar Ridge, which is was our main pilot community, mostly because they have a memory care unit, assisted living, and then a standalone.
Oh, I think she just froze up. Is that right? Yes. Okay. Well, there's a first time for everything, and hopefully they will unfreeze. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and just take over on the rest of the show. So it looks like Christine wrote in and she said that, Steve Moran wrote a recent article that 80% of button activations are non-emergencies. That's true. 80% are not emergencies. It's usually because someone needs help with something or they're not getting help fast enough. And so to be able to sort through these and really categorize them as Caavo can do is an enormous benefit to the staff. So as well as to the family member knowing how they can help their loved one more often. So thank you, Christine. Yeah, that is a really good comment. Now, if you're wondering what happened to our guests, their internet froze. It is freezing. And so we're hoping that they go ahead and log back on, and we'll bring them back on as soon as they do. So in the meantime, if anyone has any other questions, we were talking with Lifespark. They have tested Caavo, and Caavo is a platform that works on your TV. It plugs in and it allows people, residents, to be able to receive all of their community notifications and updates on the TV, but it also allows staff to send residents information. And I have seen it in person. And I have seen it in person. I have worked with it in person, and it is great. Yes, I would very much so. Leanne, thank you for writing in. So Lifespark is using Caavo in all of their communities, and they were just telling us how they like to test them in Polar Ridge to make sure that it's well received, and they work out all the kinks first, and then they go ahead and spread it out to the rest of their communities. So what else? How do they, nurse or staff, discern whether it's an emergency or not? That's a really good question, Angie. Thank you. I think they're able to discern that because they can communicate with the resident directly by use of a camera. Does that help answer your question? Yeah, by use of a camera. So, the alternative there is the pendant. The pendant does not communicate anything except alert. That's the only thing. It doesn't have any variation of the need at all. But with Caavo, you have a camera on the resident from the TV. And so you can also speak out loud and ask the resident, I understand you need something. How can I help you? And if it is an emergency, you can ask for immediate help if you're a resident at that point or not. Oh, goody, goody. It looks like our guests are slowly but surely logging back in. And you know what? Hey, it's not a Tech Tuesday unless there's some tech issue, right? So welcome back, you guys. I'm glad you didn't throw up your hands and walk away. And there you are. You are back. Thank you, Angie. All right. Welcome back. Let's see. Hi. You're still here.
Sorry about that. Little bit of internet technical difficulties.
Yeah, no problem. It happens. It totally happens. It happens to all of us. So, in fact, it happens to me all the time. No worries whatsoever. So, let's see. We had a couple questions, and well, first, I was asking you how you test it, and you were mentioning Polar Ridge, right? Maybe. Oh, there you are.
We got it.
We got it. We're in a new build construction, so apologies.
No problem. So tell us, how do you test out new technology? And you were mentioning Polar Ridge.
Yeah, so we like to try it in an environment that has a couple different variables, but are easy enough for us to separate out. So we tried it a little bit different in our memory care area versus our assisted living versus our independent living, to try to kind of just see what each area was looking for, like what they wanted to get from the Caavo system. And then for our Round Lake building that has it fully implemented, we basically just took what we learned from our Polar Ridge community and have implemented the best features or the most utilized features here.
Got it. Got it. And just in regards to any other technology that you're trying, you're looking into, you found that works really well for the majority of your community. What else?
Safely You, I think, would be a big one that we're utilizing for fall prevention. And that we have in several of our communities right now as a metric, as well as our Foresight program for much of the same. So just kind of utilizing those systems to see how we can better manage fall prevention through seeing how a fall occurred, being able to truly pinpoint what happened in that incident, and create better interventions to prevent reoccurrence, as well as to truly just timestamp the exact moment that it happened and have an automatic alert go out to the staff, so that there isn't a concern if a resident isn't wearing a pendant, for example, that they're going to have help right away.
Right, because the pendants are only as good as the person who's wearing it, right? Yep. So Angie wrote in, she said, wanted to know about the nursing staff feedback in regards to some of the technology. And if you can answer that and speak to that, that would be great.
Yeah, I think, with any change, it was difficult up front. But once we got it implemented and it was kind of consistent across the board, again, people going in there, knowing how the remotes looked, like what the system did, like how it functioned. So people were all on the same page, going from an existing build to a new build. It's kind of interesting because everybody went through those learning steps at Polar Ridge. Where at Round Lake, everyone's going to kind of be on different levels and using it different functionality, but that's how we kind of implement, exactly what people want and kind of put that into practice.
Mm-hmm. And with some of the feedback earlier when we were talking about the importance of having the early and often conversation, it is truly like the importance of a listening session. Have there be people and come on site, show them how to use it, teach them the usability of it, not once, not twice, 3, 4, 5 times until they're used to it, and make sure it integrates with the pieces that make their job work best. If you have to bring in another phone for them to carry or another tablet for them to utilize, or they have to have 3 more passwords, the chance of the nursing staff being interested in utilizing it goes out the window. So including them in that upfront and being like, how do we make sure it integrates with the key pieces that make your job work well? And we did a lot of celebrations when the staff were using it appropriately. So making sure you're watching it and be like, Keisha, I just saw that you went and answered that this way. That's awesome. And making sure that you're doing a lot of that in the moment feedback. And that's been our biggest success, I would say. And with the Safely You platform, just because that's another building of mine that we're piloting it in, the bigger piece there is about making sure they understand how we're using it now to make their job easier tomorrow. Like how implementing it today is going to prevent a fall for a resident that you care for tomorrow, how we're helping them create an incident report that is a full picture. And that's important. It's just the amount of early and often conversations.
I like this comment that Leanne recently posted about the assist request. Thank you, Leanne, because we were talking maybe when you guys were reconnecting about the difference between the emergency button and how do people know, and there are options on the Caavo remote. So yeah, thank you for submitting that. I appreciate that. And as we wrap up here, I want to thank you guys for logging back on and doing your best getting back on. I know it's frustrating sometimes. I want to thank our wonderful participants who have been chatting it up and keeping us engaged and focused. Thank you. And how could someone get in touch with you in order to find out more about Lifespark?
Yeah, so I think we're both best reached by email.
Yep.
Okay.
So you can contact us via email, and we certainly would love to talk about Lifespark, how to end the roller coaster of the healthcare crisis, how to bring Lifespark into some other senior living communities through some of our external offerings. And we would love to talk to you about just tech systems we've seen work and just things we would do different for next time.
Yeah, and just the quick question that Angie just asked in the chat down there. It's the reporting feature, I think, is kind of the biggest implementation, is that once you can actually see those numbers and how it's working, like I said, the voice remote thing, we had no idea that was going to be like the number one utilized thing. And all of a sudden, like, well, let's start teaching that and like show people how to use the voice activation. And it just kind of like took off upper management to see the reporting function kind of get them initiated.
And with the, Angie, that is such a good question. With the voice to talk feature, and like as part of your pendant response, for them to ask for things, if you do incidental charges in your communities, where if it's like an a la carte visit to the apartment or something, it's also a way to pull a report of what you should be charging for, in case there's a chance that a home health aide or a nursing assistant or whoever forgot to enter that in real time, which obviously happens. And that is just another opportunity for leadership to have to worry less about the day-to-day, be able to pull a report and have more of those resources available. So it's kind of taking time in one area to save time in another area.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for being our guest today and for shedding more light on technology. And we will see you back here, everyone, next week on Tech Tuesday.